evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Cone Racing League, Season number 8, Tier number 4, Round number 6. You join myself, CRL Free Fall, back once again after weeks with leave without absence, I believe is the correct term. Went a little bit AWOL, had a little other plans, but I am back once again for the Dutch Grand Prix, and I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, who's been in the co-coms box for me for the majority of the season. It is the one and only Leroy, or Lee, as we like to call him. How are you getting on tonight, mate?
Not too bad, Scott, not too bad. Excited at the amazing duos finally back, so...
The dream team, the Celtic connection, it's returned. Brilliant to be back. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Interesting race for us tonight then, Lee. Zandvoort follows on from Monza, of course. Well, it was a happy day, or a happy night, it should be said, in Italy last time out. IR Marshall taking the top spot in the Ferrari in front of the Tifosi went down a very, very good treat. Trundars P2 with Victor Mean rounding off the podium. The Williams and Mercedes drivers putting in solid performances to get on to that podium. AFL, the Maverick, Mark Wilson, Scooter Claim, BX37 Pro, Murphy and Spider Rob rounded off the top 10 with Wuban and Topher picking up points alongside that. As for your championship, I'll give you a very quick rundown as BX37 Pro, the first car on track, is on his outlap. SUFC remains on top spot, but Marshall is 15 points behind, and a further 13 points behind him is Mark Wilson, Wuban, and then there's not much separating AFL and Victor Mean, so these six really tight as toenails, as Mr. Danny Mack would say, at the top of the table, and there's a few drivers not too far behind them as well, running down that drivers' championship. A different test though for them tonight, Lee. The streets and straights of Monza replaced by these tight technical turns of Zandvoort.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Zandvoort is replacing. It's a very technical track. Lots of corners, lots of curbs as well that can easily spin you. So it's a challenge for the drivers. Obviously, it's really not the most exciting for overtaking, but the drivers have to stay switch on the whole race. Because one little turn in too early or one corner too wide, and that could be the end of the race. So you have to stay switched on.
Absolutely, yeah, long sweeping corners, medium speed, kind of slower speed corners, and then those tricky curbs. We've seen them in Tier 3. If you've been watching that, it's been an interesting qualifying session so far for them, and obviously they're into the race now, but a few cars make mistakes, losing a little bit of grip, and that car just doing pirouette after pirouette, and it's really tricky. We know how tricky it can be with tyre heating in this game, and that just compounds on that. BX37 Pro then, Big Ben for you old timers here in CRL. He's going to be the first one up to the line, a 1:12.6. Tier 3 saw a 1:10.8 for the pole time. Sorry, didn't mean to give any spoilers. And the rest of the pack falling in to the 1:11. So a very good lap time here if you can get into the mid 1:11s for Tier 4. We've seen some impressive performances in qualifying. It could maybe stretch up to the low 11s, but if they can get into the 11s, Lee, I think that's a solid time. The first two times in, BX37 Pro and Tom with Tip Top, both in the 1:12s. The next car rounding up, I believe, is not a clue. I think it's the Maverick. It is a 1:13.6 banker lap in. He's definitely got time to improve. We know he has got a bit more pace in that tank. SUFC, he got there before I could, and what did I say, mid 11s, low 11s, that could be a good time. Well, the man at the top of the Drivers' Championship has just spoken my words into fruition. A 1:11.4. I can next a 1:11.669. Very good lap time from the young Scotsman, of course, recently dropping down from Tier 3. Mark Wilson, a 1:12.0. I was trying to find him there. I'm a little bit rusty at this. It's only been 1 week off. You'd think I'd be a bit better, but obviously not.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, obviously you said about 11s, but it's just the championship we're getting off the best start, but we're still waiting for quite a few enough time still. I think car drivers not, 11 drivers not saying enough time, but yeah, Iconex obviously last week, and with him, I don't remember. I can't remember what happened though.
Yeah, he DNF'd at some point during the race. I think he was P14 overall or P16 overall. He had an unfortunate DNF. Unfortunately, I missed that myself as well. Still doing a little bit of homework, still a little bit catching up. P16 it was for him in his debut. Of course, taking the seat of Deluxe, who jumped up to Tier 3. Not the best start for his life in Tier 3, but he is. Let's be realistic here. He's the only person in, I believe, Tier 4 and Tier 3 that has some association with an esports team. So when we say there's no pressure, there is no pressure. And especially when he's got another one of his drivers sitting beside him here in the comms box.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Zach, if you're watching, absolutely zero pressure. I just might get sacked. Who knows?
He did mention to me last season that he loved watching my commentary with Liam. He just wishes he was never going to race with me commentating over him, because apparently all I did was cause commentators curse and a little bit of misfortune. So fingers crossed, none of that. A man that's having no misfortunes tonight so far is Spider Rob 95. Some solid sector times coming in here for the sister Aston Martin. Does well, keeps it just within that curb. You run a little bit wide there on the final couple of turns there onto that curb, and it can invalidate you up to the line. It is a 1:12.693, a decent banker lap time for him. Another driver that's showing a bit of pace this season and will be looking to improve. Murphy, the old man Murph, comes in with a 1:12.761, puts in provisional P6, but of course plenty of lap times still to go. Victor Mean, purple sector 1 in the Mercedes. Of course, podium sitter last time out in Monza, and I believe in the Drivers' Championship P6 he is. 35 points off the top, but bear in mind there is 30 points available here tonight, so it could come all to fruition. All swings Victor Mean's way if he can put a solid lap time out. And look at this teamwork here by the two Mercedes. Mean Moody on an outlap ahead of Victor Mean on his flying lap. He's going to get a nice rundown out of the final few corners. A nice little bit of slipstream as well up to the line. And it's a 12.224, 8 tenths off the top. Maybe the purple sector's deceiving a little bit there, that glitch still in the system, but a solid lap time nonetheless.
Yeah, obviously, solid lap times. Everyone's starting to finally get a lap in. Obviously, as you said, getting a lap time around here is important because it's very easy to spin off. I mean, I refer to this track as the Monaco, but the walls are further away, because I think those two are very similar, you know. Errors are punished, but as Anvo, there's a little bit more room for error because you obviously lots of gravel traps on the outside.
Absolutely, it's Monaco with a little strip of grass and a couple of they're not even gravel traps, they're almost like sand traps, but I suppose that does sort of ring true to the history of this circuit along the sandy beaches of the North Sea shores of the Netherlands, of course. Interesting little bit of history about this track. The original circuit was made from what was essentially supply runs and supply roads during the Second World War. The former roads laid by both sides throughout the war and used by both sides eventually turned into a main distributor road, and the circuit was formed and actually purchased from the surrounding, I believe they were known as farm gardens. Little bit of history for you, and I can give you a little bit of history about every corner here tonight. Well, not every corner, but most of the corners. The most famous, of course, being turn number 1, the Tarzan corner. Do you know where it gets its name from, Lee?
No, I don't, Scott. Please
Well, I do. We did have this discussion. I purposely never told you just so I could do this little lead-in. It was named in, so the official explanation is when the circuit was built, 1948, there was a bunch of kitchen gardens here, and I believe kitchen gardens are sort of like plots where people will grow their food to eat in their own personal house. Go Stage 1 while I'm telling that one. Puts its lap time in a 1:15.409. And there was one particular person that owned a kitchen garden where turn 1 is. And he was a very large man who just did not want to give up his garden. So in exchange, they promised to nickname the corner after him. And therefore it was nicknamed Tarzan's Corner.
Only in Netherlands.
It's there's a bit of history amongst all of them, and I'm sure it'll be a fun night for all you getting to hear me try and say some of these corner names, because
yes, comedy. I mean,
the common theme they all have is Bocht, B-O-C-H-T. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that wrong. Right, I might not be, but I know that means turn or corner. So the easiest ones are, of course, Bocht 9 and Bocht 10. Turns 9 and 10. IR marshalling going round the outside of a Mercedes on the outskirts of turn 14. Goes up the line, a 1:11.884. Last week's winner, putting himself up into podium contention here in qualifying, of course. No points for qualifying. However, Mark Wilson, I believe, is on a lap. I think he has just started it. So we'll get a nice little tour for the majority of this circuit as he comes through the right-hander of 2, the left-hander of 3. Gerlach and Hergenholtz, respectively. Then we have Hunsrug, which is this 4 and 5, before we get into Slotmacher, turn 6. And then this is actually 7. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because there's too many letters for my liking. Master Bocht, turn number 8 there before. Bocht 9 here, the right-hander. Master Bocht, of course, master turn. Bocht 9, turn 9. Alpha Tauri in front of the Red Bull here does look to get out of the way and does get out of the way on the run down to the Hans Ernst Bocht, which is, of course, 11 and 12. This beautiful and tricky section, which could cause some problems for the drivers tonight. The Kumhochbuch, I'm trying to put a little bit of Jeroen accent on there, shout out to him. Before the Ari Lindijk, I believe it is. Mark Wilson, anyway, up to the line, a 1:11.652 sees him go professional P2.
Yeah, this is more of a comedy show than a commentator's booth, Scott.
Don't say you don't get your money's worth from me. I may not be the most knowledgeable. I may not be the most
Quick.
Anything, but I am at least mildly entertaining in the slightest way. MFC Trunders up to the line with 1:11.922 on a pretty low ERS run lap there, so a decent time and probably some more in the tank. I'll cut you off there, Lee. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I mean, you say I pay my money's worth. I mean, there's a reason I pay nothing to watch you, Scott.
Oh, wow. I'm sure somebody would. There's got to be somebody out there that wants me. Spider of 85, 95 even, putting 10 years onto the man, is about to start his next run, so we'll keep an eye on him. P10 last time out in the Aston Martin, of course, finds himself in P10 in the Drivers' Championship. A little bit disappointing. He's shown pace at times and he's had a few issues, it must be said, whether that be, of course, the infamous one at China with the disconnects and a few other bits and pieces, but maybe a good points haul tonight could make the world of difference. Speaking of Aston Martin, they are top of the pops when it comes to the Constructors' Championship at this point. 414 points. Ferrari, though, I think it was 3 wins out of 4 last week for them. They've jumped up all the way to 384 points. Only 30 points separating the two constructors. It's amazing how much Ferrari's done better as soon as I've left them. I am still staying on as the team principal, whether you like it or not, and I'm going to take my credentials and my credit, but doing absolute bits. Alpine only 2 points behind, and then only 24 points further behind that is Williams, so it's still very tight within the top 4. Mercedes, Haas, Alfa Romeo pretty close together as well. Red Bull 260 points. They're a little bit off the top, but again they're only 54 points off the next nearest car. McLaren in P9 with 204, and Alpha Tauri. You'll join Free Figure Gang eventually, guys. 95 points for you boys. Tier 3 pulling their weight with 40 points. Tier 1 of Nathan and Euron, 29 points in 5 rounds.
Useless.
Not great, is it, Lee? Not very great at all. Anyway, I've been reading that and just been watching Spider-Rob go do laps. DS Baker, the Welshman, of course, his debut season here in CRL. How is his season getting on? I don't actually know off the top of my head. I do know, however, he has scored 7 points. Decent in your first season. There's some really, really kind of settled drivers in here that have been doing it for quite a while. They are quite well versed in the league racing scene and how things work. So to come in your first league race season in F1 and be scoring points within the first 5 rounds, it's a good showing. He's on his first lap of the night, and it could be his last given the timing. 3.5 minutes left to go. Of course, Lee, just over the 1 minute mark, so there may be time to sneak another one in, but it'll be very much last runs for the boys very, very soon.
Yeah, as Wuban there obviously was down in P13, but now with 11.6 goes P2. But yeah, last lap, or should be last lap soon enough, as Trundler is on lap coming into turn 6 now. He's about 800 down his lap, but obviously at motor sectors where he gained the most time, and coming into this fast section, his the apex nicely. And then I know it's a little bit wide in this corner, but I'm just drift the car back inside, and now you wanna drift that wide and get a good exit here, which he does so, and now his car's in front of him, but they move out of the way. As he comes to the end of the middle sector, he is 1.5 tenths down, but I mean, we'll see if he can get through the chicane. It goes a little bit wide through here, and now through the final corner. And then the 5th gear, and now through the banking. And what can Trundles do? Can he improve on his time? Only be P6, he pits, so I think he might just have time to get another lap in.
Just quick pit in, change the tyres and get back out. Victor Mean starting, which will likely be his final run. Wuban is, I don't know if he's on a flying lap. No, he's definitely not based on that time. He might be able to just sneak into the pits if he makes an absolute dart and daring run. Mark Wilson is on an outlap getting prepped for his final run. Icon Next has just started his final run as Spider Rob retires in the pits. We'll keep an eye on Icon Next here as the last of the cars either come out of the pits or on their outlaps or just beginning their flying laps, and I think it will be Mr. Zach Iconex to be the first to finish the last of the runs here. Purple Sector 1, 66 thousandths up on his best time. He needs to find just over 2 tenths to get a shot at what is the pole time at the moment, but when you look at that, half a tenth could be the difference between P4 and P2 as it stands. He's rounding turn number 10 now as we speak, and the runs down to the Hans Earth Bocht. 2 tenths up on his time. A big final sector here, of course. It's a short sector. The right, left, and then the double right through the banking. He might get a little bit of toe here off the McLaren in front. A little bit of a loose rear end there onto the curb, but he does well to hold it. DRS wide open on the Aston Martin, and down to the line it is a 1:11.217 for Iconex.
And SFC is 2 tenths down, so I'm not sure you can match that time unless he maybe backs off and goes another one, but Iconex excellent time there. Is Mark Wilson coming up now with the 10 minute sector? Is he up on his time? He's down by 4 tenths, so I'm not sure for him. It's SFC seems to have backed off on his lap, so I'm not sure. But Marshall's 3 tenths up in the first sector, so it's looking like a good lap for him.
3 tenths up would put him in the mix for P3, of course. We've seen a big sector from Iconex in the last put his lap. Could he pull it together here, Lee? I'll let you take him through the last sector of his qualifying.
Never mind, he's 4 tenths down.
Glitch of the game, it seems. We're getting all excited there for no reason. SUFC then is into the pits, so he won't improve. Next up is the 2 Red Bulls. Mark Wilson is going to run to the line, but of course can't improve with that. IR Marshall, we've seen, is down on his time. Murphy is not rounding the final corner. He is in the first sector. We'll come back to him later. AFL is up in his time. Goes P5 of a 1:11.793. Jumps ahead of IR Marshall. There's a Mercedes of Victor Mean coming through the final sector, but that red light flashing on the rear of the car tells me he does not have ERS enabled, and he is not on a flying lap. Next up then...
Oh, Trunders. I was going to say it's Trunders, but he's spun. I think Mary occurs to everyone. I was going to mention him and then he spun, but yeah, Murphy's on a lap, I think, coming to the end of the minute sector split. Is he up on his time? He is by 84,000, so looking to maybe try and sneak into 8th place ahead of it. I mean, obviously every position around this track is vital as he comes out into the final corner for Murphy. I guess he got exit, and now rounding up to the line here. Murphy will set a 12.1 and go P8, but I think that is it for everyone. Yes, it is.
Yeah, Trunders will not improve. Topher will not improve. DS Baker will not improve. And that is the last of the bunch at AI of AFL. Love to see that from Baker, though. He is getting out of the way, although it may be fuel issues going by that red flashing fuel can in the bottom right. Or the middle right, it should be said. Middle right, bottom middle right. We got there in the end, folks, of his screen. But that is going to be qualifying. A 1:11.217. That was mixing it up with P2 in Tier 3. SUFC a 111.407 again up there at the top. And then look at this battle for P3. Wuban a 623, Mark Wilson a 652, AFL a 793, IR Marshall an 884, and Trunders a 922. Just under, and I mean literally 1,000s under, 3 tenths separate P3 from P7. A tight battle there. And then there's another battle on. Look at that, from P8 all the way down to P13. About 3.5, 4 tenths separating them. Some nice little battles here. There's one at the front, one in the mid pack for the final podium, and one for the final points paying positions. But you can never discount anybody around here in Zandvoort, Lee. This is going to be... It's going to be one of two things. It's going to be a bore snooze fest with limited overtaking and limited action. But knowing these tier 4 drivers, as somebody goes past in a very noisy car,
someone's excited.
Somebody's very excited for this Dutch Grand Prix. Knowing these tier 4 drivers, though, there isn't built of a show ahead of us. And of course, SCFC and the likes, Mark Wilson, IR Marshall, maybe not getting their final run in, so maybe not the true pace, but that is qualifying results. Will quickly show you the bottom half of the grid here. It's going to be Ghost Danger 1 taking up the back ahead behind Mean Man Moody, but it's not always the worst place to start here in Zandvoort. A tricky circuit, like we said. There's opportunity for spins, there's opportunities for safety cars and strategy switches to come into play, and of course, it's on the coast of the North Sea. You can see the beautiful castles, the beautiful sand dunes in the background. And that doesn't always mean beautiful weather.
No, it definitely doesn't. I mean, I've been a few times at races, but weather can change very quickly. So, I mean, rain will spice it up, but also it'll mean less overtaking. So, it could be a win, but it also could be a lose. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, loading in now. I mean, if it is dry, it should be a one-stop strategy here. Pretty simple, I do believe. But will it be dry? Let's see. Oh! No, it is not. Here we go.
Now, this, of course, has another implication for qualifying. Setups. Who has went for a dry setup? Who went for more a wet-based setup? Track position, of course, is one thing. You get that in qualifying, but if you're going to struggle with... If you're going to use a drier setup to get that, it could give you some problems here. So we'll maybe see some tales of that creeping in, but it's not just raining here, Lee. It is absolutely thumping it down.
I mean, as two men from Scotland and Ireland, I think the Indian orders pretty well.
I'm just looking at all these daft people up on top of the Paddock Club. They haven't even got an umbrella in sight. Absolutely soaked. But I suppose that's some of the things that some of us need to do for some CRL action. Luckily, none of us need to go through that. Make sure to join myself and Lee for the next 45 to 50 minutes or so as we take you around what is sure to be an exhilarating Grand Prix here in Zandvoort. Of course, on the outskirts, well, not quite the outskirts, but a short drive away from, of course, the capital city of Amsterdam. That nearly escaped my tongue there. So yeah, a very, very, very popular track in CRL, it must be said, on a home nation front at least. None of the Dutch drivers in Div 4, but plenty within the CRL community. So plenty of home support maybe later on in the week, or of course in Tier 3. Just getting a little bit from one of the drivers, I believe it is Victor Mean. Game said it would be dry. So I wonder if that's that glitch where the icon says it's dry and the percentage says it's not, so this could really spice things up, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, everyone on 4 tires, so this could be a very interesting race. But fun fact, Scott, technically speaking, Netherlands has 2 capitals. Amsterdam is the commercial and like industrial capital, whereas there's another city called The Hague, which is where all the government buildings are placed. Fun fact.
Very true. The Hague, of course, also the capital of Europe in one sense, the home of the European Parliament and all that, is it not? Or am I being silly? That's Brussels. What's The Hague? Oh, The Hague's where they do the war crimes and such. We won't talk about that. I won't talk about what goes on at The Hague at times. And Iconix losing his connection to the track surface. They are going off into one of the many gravel and sand traps around this circuit. Of course, the first ever winner at this circuit was Ascari himself. He'll be looking at the Ferraris to emulate some of that je ne sais quoi, shall we say. That's not Italian.
Not you on Thursday, but anyway. It's
No. I'm just an armchair driver now, you know.
He's the equivalent of what's his face? Luca Badauer. If you remember him from 2009, he raced at Belgium and was it Brazil? It wasn't Brazil. It was another race, and he came 20th in both.
Yeah, I'm just here for the vibes. Just here for the vibes, indeed. Exactly. Here to entertain you all. It's going to dry up soon, I hope, is the message from Mean Moody. We'll see if that comes to fruition. It could really put a spin on this race if it did. Time will tell on that. 36 laps in ahead of us here. Around, I haven't give you any track stats. 2.646 mile circuit, or 4.259. Of course, 14 corners, 10 to the right, 4 to the left. 36 laps for us. First held in 1950. Ferrari, unsurprisingly it should be said, one of the oldest constructors, also the most successful with 8 wins around the circuit. Jim Clark, the British driver, of course, takes 4 wins around here in his career. Last time out, when we raced here in real life, what a race it was. There was drama, there was sparks, there was team orders galore, and it all went haywire on Twitter. None of that here tonight, or will there be? So 5 red lights it is in Zandvoort, and we are underway for CRL Season 8, Tier 4, Round number 6, the Dutch Grand Prix. Full wet conditions, and you can see some of the drivers squirming and shaking a little bit with that as they run down to turn 1. Tarzan, there's a Ferrari, McLaren and a Williams, I believe, making contact into turn 1. A little bit of bump and push through, but I think for the most part we're through scot-free.
Oh no, we're not. IR Marshall, you spoke too soon. IR Marshall off into the wall there on the exit of turn 2. Apart from him, obviously no collisions. Obviously, there was collisions, but no collisions leading to a spin so far. But oh, never mind. I'm ever excited. Never mind. No, IR Marshall and Ghost Danger 1 then to make contact about them and spawn. We're actually a curse on people.
We're looking, think, oh, they're doing well, there's no collisions, and then that's when they hit you through into the middle part of the track, halfway through Sector 2 now, and it seems as if the trains are already forming. Tom with tip-top P9 has got a 2-second gap ahead of him already to the P8 and above, but again, this could be setups coming into play. IRT Iconix.
Sorry, SFC was a defender from Mark Wilson and went deep into the chicane, and Mark Wilson right in the back from into the final corner. He's going down the inside. It's very audacious in the wet, but obviously SFC with the favourable line on the outside. But Mark Wilson trying to come at him here. Obviously, you want to wait to use your EOS because you don't want to go into a wall there. But yeah, but as you were saying about Iconex, 1.7 seconds for everybody. SFC did not get a great start off the line. That's costing her. Mark Wilson down the inside into turn 1. He's sent on the outer middle. Can he make the move? SFC goes wide. Mark Wilson, excellent move from him in the wet. He don't use sheet light bombs. He's made that one work and is now up in the P3 and can chase after Ruben.
Makes a move into turn 1, of course. One of the prime overtaking opportunities around the circuit. One of the few, to be fair. It is quite a tricky track at times to make the move stick, but Mark Wilson does make it stick and moves up into P3 in this Dutch Grand Prix. Full wet conditions then to kick us off, and I don't think the clouds are looking like any time shifting any time soon. We'll wait and see how it plays out. I've seen many races here, though. However, we know how quick it can transition from full wet to dry, so it'll be one to watch out. Battle raging on for P5 as the Maverick makes a move on DS Baker further down the grid, moving up into P15. But AFL getting a little bit of pressure here from Victor Mean and Trundles, although he has caught up a little bit to the rear as FUFC, and it seems as if FUFC is just struggling a little bit in these wet conditions compared to some of those around them. Wuban though is, not Wuban, Iconex is holding off Wuban and stretching that gap 2.6 seconds already. What a drive from the young Scotsman so far, and showing that he's maybe not quite good enough for Tier 3, maybe struggled at Tier 3 to begin with, but he has got pace about him, and he's showing it in the wet so far tonight. A long way to go, however, though, Lee.
Yeah, as you said, like, almighty God, but I wonder if actually see maybe went with a joy setup, because obviously, as you said, it probably was the icon glitch where it said, obviously, on the icons that it would be joy, but the percentage was not. I reckon he might have gotten that wrong, or maybe he just did not practice in the web, which could also be a possibility, because this game is a pain. Driving left from Mark Wilson. Trying to get out the loop, and obviously very hard to overtake, but he's seen it. I mean, he's done it against actually as Thunders. I'm not sure what's happened to him, but he's very high on the outside wall, or he was very high on the outside. I'm not sure how he's ended up there.
I don't know. It looked like I was keeping an eye on the minimap, just seeing what was going on. It was between him and BX37 Pro. Ben, doesn't look like there's any damage to that Alpha Tauri. I could be wrong, however, because I'm not getting the best of the camera angles. So I don't know if it was a collision together or just, trying to go side by side racing in difficult conditions. And it can be a tricky track at times to do that, let alone with the curbs being wet and a little bit slippery, and just fling him off into Narnia, for a lack of a better description. Not the way Trundles would have wanted things to go down in P17 then, as things stand. Tomo Tip Top is chasing down the man he was battling with, BX37 Pro, using a little bit of that ERS deployment down into turn number 1. Has a look, thinks better of it, and opts to tuck back in, although Ben running a little bit wide. He is going to get a decent exit, however, on the run. The quick left-hander 2 before the right-hander 3, and then the long sort of banked of 4 here. There is a number of corners in very, very tight succession here. But the grid sort of starting to space out already. We do see this more often in the wet races than the dry, of course. No DRS tonight, no way to sort of hook on to the person in front and let them pull you along. Mark Wilson, though, doesn't seem to be needing that at the moment. He is hounding the rear of the Haas of Wuban.
Yeah, he is, and he gets a better exit hit than the Haas, and he's going to go. He's not going to move here as Wuban. Head them off and never. I mean, Wuban has more ERS. Obviously, Wuban on 70%, Mark Wilson on about 30, so see if Mark Wilson made the move here as he's going to try and set up, I think, like he did. But as you see earlier on in the race, Wuban seems to be getting on a better exits at the moment. Obviously, in the wet, around that's all you really need to do, stay ahead, but now coming out the final corner, I think you should go for a move.
See if he can get a good enough run, of course. Like we said, no DRS available. He's got limited DRS, does Mark Wilson, after burning it for a few, and the move not going to present itself. Wuban looking at it, a huge supply of ERS compared to Mark. So Mark maybe going to need to just settle down and regain some of that ERS. Of course, I feel you do regain it and you do lose it. It's a bit easier to keep in the wet. As yellow flag scooter claim having, I believe, his second spin of the night. Mark Wilson had a little look on the exit of the first sectors. Wuban drifting that Haas there through the turns 4, 5 and 6 for a brief moment, but keeps it all steady and forward. 2 cars into the pits already, Trunders and Scooter Claim, both onto fresh wets. I was hoping there for a second was an Inter's gamble coming out early, Lee, but I believe just a little bit of damage, repair, and try and keep the car in the best condition. As another yellow flag, I'm not quite sure who it is. It's Murphy this time on the exit of turn number 9.
No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Murphy. I think it might have been, because Murphy was. Well, it might have been Murphy. I'm actually not too sure what he tells you, but it didn't look like Murphy because I thought the yellow flag was coming out of turn 6. But again, I'm the blind one here, so who knows?
I'm glad you said it, so I didn't. Murphy, of course, a veteran of the league. He's been around since the early days. Currently finds himself in P11 in the Drivers' Championship as Victor Mean gets a move on his teammate for P5 into turn 1. AFL running onto that curb, and you can see it lost him a little bit of time, just how little grip there is there on these curb and how sort of cautious you need to be on the throttle.
Sorry, Mark Wilson was trying to get a better exit on Wuban there, but obviously Wuban with the better ERS is holding up. I mean, sorry, but looking at the clouds, are we in the middle of a thunderstorm or something here? I think we might be, because like, obviously the weather's bad, but like, even on the game, I've never seen it this bad.
There's not even a glimmer of sun or anything. there is a glimmer of hope, maybe, and it comes in the colour of green. It is the Maverick going on to Inter tyres as Mark Wilson has a look at Wuban, can't quite make it, and Murphy having another spin on the rundown to turn at number 8, Masters Corner. He has not mastered that corner tonight here, and is having a horrid time. Maverick, though, one to watch on the intermediates. I think it's still early, looking at the puddles on the track.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, he's already lost. Well, actually, we'll see now if he gains time or not ahead, but I doubt it. I really don't see it happening. I'm looking at the captain leader. Yeah, he's losing time all the time, so I don't think that was the right call for him. Obviously, Maverick down at the back had not made the lose. I don't think, as I mean, the fuel spread is that much. You wouldn't have regained much by going on with something that's a bit gamble, but P3 starting to heat up. SFC is just about there. Mark Wilson, it's a tale of what we'd expect. No, he seems to have the better overall pace, and well, Wuban seems to be better on corner exits and normal before his ERS, which in the wet, the Iron Sand is all you really need. But I mean, iConnect is gone. Got the start he needed. Hasn't got past since, but needs to keep concentration. It's just 30 laps to go around here, and it's very easy to make a mistake.
Absolutely long, tricky race ahead of all of these drivers here, and like you're saying, he put it on pole, he got the start that he needed, and Wuban acting as a little bit of a cork in the bottle here, holding up Mark Wilson, holding up SUFC, who seems to have found some pace, and he's got a full battery of ERS to use whenever he chooses to do so. So definitely doing favours for iConnect. He's getting a lot of love of the track. Resify, of course, saying to him a big there's a lot of love for Zach. iConnect, of course, he's a quite a well-known member in the community, Mark Wilson and Wuban drifting either side of the line there on the final corner, but a lot of love about don't throw now, you have a good league, don't do what you normally do. And AJ Wuhan, that was from Resify, of course, AJ Wuhan coming and saying a Zach spin is inevitable, but I believe. No pressure at all, Zach, if you are listening. In the battle for P2, though, heating up tremendously. Mark Wilson almost pushing Wuban around, and Wuban losing it on grip on the exit, coming across. The two of them making contact. SUFC is hunting in the background, and the track going to tighten up here.
Oh, he's not, is he?
Goes for the move around the outside and makes it stick. What a move from Mark Wilson on Wuban. Definitely, once I finally get them sorted and out, I promise you January is on its way very, very shortly. It's just like I say, it's been one of those months. Mark Wilson then making a tremendous move around the outside of Wuban down into turn number 8. Masters Corner, he mastered that overtake. SUFC is up next for Wuban, and Victor Mean just showing maybe Wuban a very good one lap pace, maybe running a drier setup, has had some good pace in the qualifying, struggling a little bit in the race. Yellow flags in sector 1. I'm not quite sure who that is. Is it a Mercedes?
I want to say. Could be wrong though.
I believe it is. Murphy has jumped into the pit while all this was going on. As is Maverick, he's jumped into the pits and put another set of intermediates on. I just like to point out, Jacob, repping the Scottish flag more than Free Fall ever has. 2 tier 2 podiums. Come back when you've got them, Zach.
Wait, what is Zach?
He's Zach Scottish. He's saying he's repping it more than me because he's winning a race.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
I got 3 poles and a win here, and 3 podiums actually when I raced in tier 4. So he's got to beat that this season to come to my front door. Anyway, we're getting a little bit off target here, thanks to Mr. Wuhan.
That's in the pits, I believe, so that shouldn't cause that.
It should cause nothing. Opting for the early call into the inters, it didn't pay off, picking up damage, having another stop, and he's decided that maybe just all the time he's lost, I think he was at danger of being lapped pretty soon. Decided it's not worth continuing. Battle for P3 raging on then. Wuban has lost 2.5 seconds to Mark Wilson. He has got Victor Mean and SUFC. I'm going to jump across though because there's a mighty battle raging on for P7. And it's not just for P7, it's for P8, 9, 10, and 11. 5 cars, all within a couple of seconds, and a tricky track to overtake though. Lap times though, they are starting to come down. Does this mean we're drying up?
Might be, but also, I mean, the drivers are trying to get more confident. Mark Wilson's gained about a second, over a second in the last lap or so on iConnect. Maybe Mark Wilson needed that. Possibly he's getting a lot of time. Or maybe Connects is trying to create each other. A 5-second gap. He has the ERS, and no point trying to push. So maybe he's just saving a little bit of tyres. And Mark Wilson seems quick. Obviously, his burden has always been time penalties and keeping it on the track. So hopefully for his sake, he can do that today.
Yeah, it'll be one to watch out. Of course, iConnect's having that little bit extra in the tank. It could come in big, especially when we get towards the crossover period in our two wets. If that does come, or maybe even dries, you can afford to maybe push on a lap on in or push on an out lap to try and make the undercut or the overcut work, or the switch over a lap late or a lap early, try and work a bit more. Gives you a little bit more flexibility in that, and that's maybe what he's looking at. The battle for P7 raging on then. Still, all these cars pretty much similar to what we've seen up the front with Mark Wilson, Wuban, SUFC. Victor Means dropped off that train a little bit, but the similar sort of thing happened down in the mid pack here. BX37 Pro keeping these guys behind, keeping them nice and humble, some would say, and just making that car as wide as he possibly can. Tomo Tiptop is going to look and have a run, but again, not getting a good enough exit out of turns 13, 14, the final bank turns, to get a try at him into Tarzan turn number 1. We'll wait and see how that develops over the next few laps. Let's jump back up to the battle for P3. SUFC still hunting down Wuban for the final podium spot. Victor Mean, like we said, dropped off a little bit over the last few laps. SUFC 92%, 94% in the ERS battery. You'd think this should be an easy move. Wuban 33, so he's got plenty more to burn, and he's got everything to gain by trying to make a move and try and put his foot down a little bit, but seems to be struggling on corner exit, Lee. Just that little bit of grip on corner exit not coming to him, but Wuban goes deep into turn 11 around the, I don't know if it's a snail section you would call them. It's not quite a carousel either. It is, of course.
So
it's turns 11 and 12.
Yeah, they're corners.
Nice and simple. SUFC then maybe going to have a rundown into turn 1 this time using that battery. Has a look to the inside, and it doesn't materialise for him. Wuban is, of course, burning a little bit as well to keep ahead. So it's sort of it's a case Wuban is going to be able to burn to try and hold the position for a little bit. But ultimately, you feel as if this position should go to SUFC with that battery advantage. But things are never as simple as that. They're never as simple as A to B, C to D. 1 is bigger than 2, because it isn't. And that is how racing works. That's a really weird analogy, but I think I made it work.
I mean, Scott, you're on the ball tonight, honestly. Some of your puns, analogies, they're on the ball tonight. I know what's happened to you.
It's called being absolutely mental. I think that's the technical term for it, just being a little bit mental.
It's called being Scottish. That's what it's called.
SUFC then unable to make a move down into turn 11 on what is the second DRS.
Yeah, Wuban's gone deep again here, but he seems to be able to do it, because SUFC seems to not be able to get the corner exit. Which, as I said with Mark Wilson, is what Wuban seems to be very good at, but...
but this could be a game changer. Trunders has retired on track. A very opportunistic overtake by SUFC there. Wuban predicting a safety car or a virtual safety car. Slowed right down on the inside, and SUFC rounded the outside. It is a full course safety car, Lee, and this will spice things right up. That 6 to 7 second lead we saw iConnect hold, gone. Victor Mean from P6, or P5 anyway, into the pits. Fresh tyres. He may lose a couple of positions, but a few following suit behind. Did we just see an overtake in the pits there as well?
We might have. I actually don't know, to be honest with you. sleeping. I wasn't paying attention, so not too sure. I mean, who was it? Well,
I think it was the
one of the
Ferraris
Impers.
and the Red Bull. I'm not too sure, but interesting choices for tyres. Victor Mean opting for a fresh set of the wets. Toma Tip Top, Spider Rob, Curly, Topher opting for the intermediates. Of course, the top six not pitting. Victor Mean was running a P5. The front four not really having a chance to pit, so we'll see what they do this lap. The rest of the pack either pitting or not. And it seems to be a fairly kind of even split so far. BX37 Pro, AFL, DS Baker, and Mean Moody opting not to pit so far. Well, Scooter Clay and Topher, Curly, Spider Rob, and Tom Tip Top opting to go for the pit stop and opting for the green stripe intermediate. The only person to put on another set of wets is Victor Mean. Strange, well, not a strange call, a bold call by all round. Iconex is into the pits. Let's see what the race leader does. This will give us a good indication of what's to come as we see plenty of pit crews out.
Yeah, I wonder who's going to go. Iconex on the new set of wets. Mark Wilson on the new set of wets. So I think that there'll be a new set of wets and most of these guys up the front. Let's just see here. What will SFC do and what will Uban do? SFC onto Inters. Interesting from the championship leader, maybe taking a gamble here, obviously. Surprising that. I mean, he hasn't a lot to lose currently. He was in P4, but maybe as maybe just trying to see if the gamble pays off. But Victor Meeting now up into what will be P6 for him as he's pitted. But yeah, this race has gotten very interesting with the strategies. A very big miss. Some people choosing to go fresh wets, some staying out, maybe thinking of crossover periods and coming in, and some opting for the mediums. So very interesting on this race. I think we'll have to wait lap or two to see the full effects of it, or if the crossover has been that effective. Appears soon, but I personally think it might still be. I think it might still be wets.
Yeah, I think your general indication for me personally is it's those puddles on the track. When it's just damp and there's none of them standing water puddles you can see there on the outside of the turn, to me, those puddles indicate that it's wet. I'd just like to point out and say, Murphy, I'm very disappointed you've made the cardinal sin of racing when there's a safety car. He was at the back of the pack. He chose to pit. If he had continued on a lap, he would have got ahead of the leaders, and then he could have pit and caught up on his free will, and now he's stuck in what is P2 essentially, and a lap down. I think he has left some of the cars through to not race, to not get in the way of their race, but disaster for the admin. I thought he might have known a little bit better. Those that did stay out, however, are
Iconex again. I think he's gone on Inters now.
Bold call. I was going to say those that stayed out, AFL, BX37 Pro, find themselves in P2, P4. It is now P1 and P3. Inters for Iconex. So, if he had went for the Inters on the first choice, he would have been P1 on them. He is now going to drop down to P7. He's got SUFC on the same compound in front of him. Of course, if the Inters pays off, that is his only real battle. But there is, of course, the battle to get to the Inter conditions. The sky is definitely brightening up here, Lee. So maybe it's only a few laps away. These Inter boys will be praying for the safety car to stay out as long as it can.
Yeah, SFC being the master strategy again, I think now. I mean, it changed very quickly. I mean, you can see the clouds, the puddles are still there, but they probably will be gone soon enough. And yeah, we're in for a very interesting. Obviously, it's a very mixed strategy. Could cause chaos. Hopefully not. Oh, hopefully it's what's the word? Chaos is in overtakes, not as in people hitting each other.
Chaotic, exciting racing, not chaos of the highest order. Hopefully we see a little bit of that bit of chaos raining down through the grid, though. Topher in the Ferrari making contact with WTL. Curly in the Red Bull picks himself up a 5-second time penalty for his troubles. Not what you need at this stage of the Grand Prix, or indeed any stage. Not going too well on that. Interesting to see, though, of course, the pack still really reforming. Marshall just coming out the end of the first sector realistically. So he's got a long way to go before he's back up. So we expect another lap. Are any of the front runners on the wets gonna make the pit stop this lap? AFL does. Mark Wilson does not. He's sticking to his strategy to go on to the wets. Victor Mean does pit again, and BX37 Pro on the starting 15 lap old wets opts to stay out on them. So now, realistically, we're looking at a grid of full inters bar 4 drivers, and one of those drivers, Ghost Angel 1, could make the pit stop here. And those on the wets are in P1, 2 and 4 at the front pack. This could throw up some chaos, well and truly, especially as the compounds start to shift in favour of the intermediates. The track starts to dry out. Looking at those puddles, Lee, they're still there. There's just not as many of them.
Oh, it connects. Oh, he hasn't. He's done a Russell. No, I think he's okay, but Jesus. He almost bottled on the safety car. He did that last week as well, actually. I remember now what happened to him.
Doing a Russell spinning under the safety car. He was fortunate there. Tomo Tip Top letting him back through. Must have picked up an illegal overtake. Just maybe a bit fortunate with the way the game decided upon that one. I'm not too sure if we'll go for another lap. It might just be a late call here. We're going to have all bar 2 of the pack grouped back up. It is going to be safety car in at this lap and back racing. I'm going to keep an eye on SUFC for this restart here. Pure and simple because he has got Mark Wilson in front on the wets. Then you've got Murphy. He's a lapped car on the intermediates behind Mark Wilson. That could be a great rear gunner for him. And then he's got BX37 Pro on the wets in front. 15 lap old wets at that. And Wuban behind. So this will give a good indication. He's got wets either side and inters either side of those to see how the different tyres are reacting. Mark Wilson then is setting the pace. It's up to him to decide when we go. And there's been a chain reaction at the front. That is not great at all. I'm not too sure what happened. Mark Wilson does go. SUFC making contact with the rear of BX37 Pro. I don't know if that was maybe something to do with Murphy getting out of the way. Not too sure. But Wuban is defending for his life from iConnect, who goes sideways into turn 1. And maybe just not having those tyres quite up the temp, pushing too hard on the inters before they are ready. SUFC though has made it stick, and the rest of the drivers seem to have done so. But Mark Wilson profiteering massively off that safety car restart here, Lee. I don't know what quite went on there under it, but a little bit of contact coming out.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, the Inter's not ever seen to have a great start there. And BX37 Pro seems to be getting away from SFC, so maybe those it's not the right time for Inters yet. I reckon they'll come to their own soon. Mark Wilson, he is gone.
Absolutely flying. Those wets definitely looking quicker at the moment, but it is that case. Yes, they are quicker now, but are they quick enough to build out a pit stop before they are not? And the sky is looking, it's looking a bit blue. The rain's looking a bit light. It could shift up. Yellow flags down through the pack. Let's try and see what is going on down there. Scooter Clem is going a little bit slow on the inside of turn number 12. Mark Wilson pumping in the fastest lap of the race so far. And a battle raging on for P5. You can see the sort of inters runners clawing away, or getting clawed away from by the wet runners at the front. SUFC though doing very well to stick in there. He is... he's just fired himself up into a potential podium or win situation. But we're only at the halfway mark, and we've seen plenty of twists already. AJ Wuhan saying in the comments that if he speaks, of course, referring back to Mr. iConnects. Yes, we won't say any more. And I think Zach's prediction of if I commentate over him, I will somehow...
Curse him.
Yeah, I think it's came true.
As BX Pro's going deep, and that's like SFC to get the move, and now open the P2. Can he try and chase down Mark Wilson? Mark Wilson built the gap of only 7 seconds. And obviously, a pit stop around here. It's only about 16, 17 seconds. Pit in one of the short moves on the calendar. So if Mark Wilson can put a decent enough gap, he's definitely on for it. Obviously, I think these intervals might have pit again. I don't see them tyres going what, 22 laps? No, I really don't see it. So unless they get destroyed, I might have to pit again. So Mark Wilson will still be in a very good position here.
I can tell you for a fact, my favourite pastime this time last year was taking intermediate tyres well into the mid-20s as Spider Up runs wide on the exit of turn 14 and makes slight contact. I don't know if there's any damage. There might be an end plate or just the lightest of light damage to the front wing of that Aston Martin. We'll see if his pace drops off over the coming laps. But yeah, Lee, I think it's a stretch, but I think the Inters could just about make it to the end. But again, that depends. When do we go onto red, yellow or white stripe compound tyres? Because I think we're going to see them before the end of this race. But like you say, 16-ish seconds is a very short pit stop here. 16 seconds is the gap from P1 to P6. So if Mark Wilson could time it right, maybe he's going for the straight wet to say mediums or softs or hards, whatever the option is, and trying it for that strategy. And as it works now, it would put him in this. It would still put him in contention for solid points. And even if it does go Inters to the end, it's he's going to be in a lot fresher Inters, Lee.
Yeah, and obviously Mark Wilson has a very good pace. I'm still quite shocked that we can see how dry it looks. I mean, honestly, it looks close. It looks closer to it being dry than it does to being full up. Mark Wilson is actually still keeping that pace at SFC, which is good to see. Now, I reckon if he pits soon enough, he could. I just said, obviously, he come at mid pack, but I reckon he would cut through the pack very quickly. Obviously, we're seeing him early on in the race make their move, so he's definitely got that in his locker. But he seems to have great pace here, and hopefully he doesn't. I'm not going to say him, because I'm going to curse him if I speak, so it's fine.
Fair enough on that. Victor Mean battling out with AFL into turn 1 on lap number 20. Murphy, 5 second speeding penalty into the pits. But he is a lap down. It is a retirement in the pits. I think that's understandable from him. Not a good night from the man from the northeast. He will be back stronger, I can assure you that. Battle for P9 regional and yellow flags, but that is just Murphy coming out of the pits. AFL, Victor Mean and Iconex, 3 rapid drivers. We see as Victor Mean goes wide, touching onto the grass on entry, and just loses a lot of time. Does well to hold it, and just about keeps everything nice and clean. Spider Rob losing out to Topher as Iconex is having a look at the rear of AFL. Wuban losing out to BX37 Pro, and Iconex still having a look at the back of Victor Mean and AFL.
Mark Wilson's in. Iconex and Victor Mean making contact there. This is chaos down in the midfield. I didn't think we'd see a train, but we're seeing a train at the moment. Mark Wilson will come out right about this pack, so he'll be hoping he can get a quick enough point we can try and avoid as much of these as possible. He's going to come right in the middle of it, which for him, if he's chasing down a win, is the last thing he needs right now. But I think he'll come out ahead of. Oh no, he's coming out right in the middle of the pack. Oh god, not ideal for him, but I mean he has the pace, so he has to prove it now.
Yeah, he's got the pace. He's got fresher tyres, of course. Only about 4 laps or so, 3 or 4 laps. Of course, these are racing laps for these tyres, but that little bit of difference can, that little bit of extra grip can make all the difference. And we've seen the pace he's got, so once he gets these tyres warmed up, going to take maybe a lap at least just to get them into the prime operating range. We'll see what kind of pace he's got, but SUFC now 8.3 second lead out front ahead of the 2 wet runners. BX37 Pro still on the same tyres he started this race on, 20 laps, going 21 on the wets. I expect we'll see himself and probably Wuban in fairly shortly. Iconex gets the move on Victor Mean around the outside of turn 10. The second DRS straight now pulls it back in. Mark Wilson getting the move into turn 11 then.
I told you he was Daredevil. I mean, he did it against SFC in the start of the race. Mark Wilson not hanging about. That was. I mean, he's been overtaken in the month of February twice now with those 2 moves. It's very hard to say, but he's not holding back at all. He's the next victim. We told for the Mark Wilson. I think he'll be aiming for maybe P2, maybe even a P1. We'll have to wait and see. But he definitely has the pace. And Mark Wilson, obviously, we said it many times. He's always had the pace, but it's always been his lack of consistency and penalties that have brought him down, but everything going well for him so far. Touch wood.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had pace for a number of seasons now to get up, compete for podiums, compete for the title. Just like you say, not even penalties in the racing incident at times. It's mostly just track limits and just the silly little mistakes that creep in. A little spin here, a little bit of damage here. Of course, not too many track limit penalties here tonight in Zandvoort. It's not really a track you can afford to cut the corners. And Iconex is cutting the inside line down into Masters ahead of AFL. AFL makes a little bit of contact to the rear with Victor Mean. And Victor Mean going down the inside now into 10. A little bit of wheel banging from the two of them. The Mercedes looking very squirmy, but AFL losing 2 into IRT Iconex up into P9. Victor Mean up into P10. And a number of cars still ahead. One of them, Mark Wilson, on the rampage and charge through this field. SGFC pumping in another fastest lap. Clear air, 12.1 seconds his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, he made the right call, and this is what championship leaders do. I mean, like, what I call his BX37 Pro has gone deep, very deep in the first corner. Those tires not really working on his car. And I think he has to put this on surely now. It's taking out for too long. I doubt they'll make it for the dry period, to be honest with you. But yeah, as he has 2 Aston Martins right out behind him, almost making contact. Iconex on the inside of his teammate. And then we'll get past him. So Iconex trying to recover, obviously, from Spain, doing most of our P7. But at the battle for, at the moment, P3 seems to be where it's at. I mean, there's a massive train all the way from P3 down to Scooter Cam in P13.
Realistically, a battle for P2 as we see Iconex go for the same move on a different car, same corner, same style, same result. He moves up into P7. Mark Wilson going side by side with Topher. A little bit of wheel banging between the Mercedes, the Red Bull and the Ferrari. They're going to be side by side in the run down to turn 11. Little squeeze from the Ferrari. The two of them just about make it side by side. And Topher has to yield.
Mark Wilson, obviously, he's on a mission tonight, and he's always making that move around the S7 next to his teammate who I don't think will fight too hard. I think these two communicate with each other, so I doubt Curly will fight, obviously, on much older intermediate tyres there.
Heart in the mouth moment there on the screens there. IRT Iconex going sideways around the final corner. BX37 Pro does pit, of course, on to, I'm assuming, Inters. It's going to be a very early call if he opts from a set of mediums here. I know it is going to be Inters. That would have been a bold strategy. Not too far out, I don't think, but still a few laps yet. This battle, of course, that we're watching here, Mark Wilson on Curly, on Tomo Tip Top, is effectively for P2. You've got those wet tyres of Wuban. He is likely going to lose time.
Any contact into Masters corner. It's not a move. It's not usually seen moving, and I mean neither of the Masters at that time. Have to get back
very good save though from Iconex. It looked to be it was quite a weird contact there. If anything, it looked as if it was going to be a big one, and then almost as if it was more network like. Answers on a postcard of that one. Either way, a good save from both drivers on both parts. The two Red Bulls then swapping positions by the looks of things here. Mark Wilson up into P4 ahead of his teammate. AFL gets the jump on Spider Rob. He's leading that train now from P9 downwards.
Mark Wilson not holding back, trying to go for it. Don't take up here up in P3. Obviously, eventually, I'm assuming whenever Wuban decides to pit, or if he stays out and he's still taken eventually. Alpha Male 1-2, maybe it's Mark Wilson. Oh, I've just jinxed it. Sorry.
Unfortunate incident there, and I think I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but I think the space a little bit limited around the outside there, only the curb to really run with, and it is unfortunate for both drivers, particularly Tomo Tip Top, who's running a good race.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying about it, he's been struggling a little bit. He's been getting involved in incidents this season, but was on regulars with the beer. I think just Mark Wilson, obviously, I mean, he's made some very bold and very overtakes. I think that was another he went for, which just, from what I could tell, I was on board with, and the space never seemed to be there. But obviously, we'll see what the stewards say if it is reported, of course.
Absolutely. Iconex in on the rear of Topher. He's got Mark Wilson behind Again, of course, Mark Wilson, it all depend if he got any damage, and judging by the way he's caught up and holding on to the rear of this train, that he's looking pretty good. SUFC, by the way, out front as Iconix has the biggest tank slapper since that 12-inch Marlin I landed on that boat trip once.
And the wall connects. Oh my god!
I don't know, was there contact there at all, or was it just tank slappers?
It was contact at first, but I think as Curly goes in the P2 now, I think it was just in the way at that corner side by side, never going to end well. I think both of them had space on outside and inside respectively, so I think that one, if it is reported, might go down to racing instant.
We'll wait on see on that. Elbow starting to come out here as we approach the final sector, or the final stints it should be said, of this Dutch Grand Prix. A few cars, obviously Iconix and Tommy Tip Top, getting involved in incidents into the pits for a fresh set of tyres. None of them opting to gamble on the dries. On board then with Topher, he's got Victor Mean and Mark Wilson, who are side by side behind him, and Mark Wilson sticking it down the inside, going to go for a double. Topher turns in a little bit, makes a bit of contact, and that loses out Mark Wilson's time. Topher then side by side with Wiban, gets the move done. Victor Mean trying to hold round the outside of 12. The space is going to disappear, but Wiban leaves him just enough and no more. And the two of them making this racing very hard but very fair on each other. Maybe a repeat of the last lap here as Mark Wilson has a look down at the inside. Wiban holding the tight inside line and opts to jump into the pits, maybe seeing a little bit of danger there with all the cars round about him. Jumps into the pits after 13 laps on the wets. Mark Wilson then going to chase down Victor Mean, who's almost pushing around some of these corners. He's got pace, maybe just a little bit of patience needed at times here, just to wait for opportunities to arise. SUFC though, we've not said much about him recently. 20.4 seconds the gap to the front. I think I was halfway through the sentence before all the chaos reigned in. That is a free pit stop if you ever need one. Tremendous drive from him tonight. Mark Wilson then is chasing down Victor Mean ahead for this provisional P4. Yellow flags further down the field. That is Mean Moody on the mid part of the second sector, having a spin on the exit of Masters, the run down into turn number 9, I believe it is. It's number 8. I can just about do my numbers. You'd think at 25 years old I would be able to do them. Obviously not. DS Baker, I said about him earlier on, he's had some good points positions so far this season. He's had a very quiet race here. P7, decent points again, and behind him it's his fellow Welshman, his fellow rookie in P8, Scooter Clem. Love to see these two battling out in good points paying positions. Scooter Clem does of course have a penalty. We'll get a quick update on those while I'm at it. They're all 5 seconds, bar Mean Man Moody. He's had 3 seconds by the looks of it. I'm not quite sure how he got them round here. It's a tricky track to get any kind of warnings at all, let alone 6 warnings to get your 6 seconds of penalties. But Scooter Clem, Topher and Curly all with a 5-second pen. Those can of course be served in the pits, and if they're obtained after the safety car, they could potentially be removed. So maybe opportunity for a sort of a cling back from some of them later on in the steward's
Victor
office.
Mean! Oh my! He must have the back end there, Mark Wilson. Long pace, long time. Of course, this is getting out of hand there, I think. DS Baker now up in P6.
I mean, you look at the penalties ahead. DS Baker could go on for a massive result here. Victor Mean then, we seen it losing the back end, and in catching it, fair enough, he caught it, but having to use Mark Wilson as a
break,
I wouldn't even say a break, as a crash cushion of some sort. Who needs Armco when you've got a Red Bull? Iconix spun on the exit of turn number 10. His night going from brilliant in qualifying to absolutely horrendous in the race. Baker then trying to have a look at Victor Mean, maybe some damage to that Mercedes. He is putting himself in a good position, running a quiet race like we said. IR Marshall, a brilliant recovery drive from last week's winner. He was down in P19 after a couple of laps. He's back up into P8, and with penalties ahead, it could turn into something a bit more rewarding for him.
I don't know what that was for.
That was a really strange one. I thought it was maybe a car retiring in the pits, but nobody's done that. Iconex has now. That's what that yellow flag is for, and it is going to be a second DNF and a second P16 for Iconex in 2 weeks. Marshall
DS
gets
Baker,
removed.
no! Oh, DS Baker's into the wall. We've done it again.
We've cursed him. He was having a brilliant drive, and that is a reset to track as well, unfortunately.
We've done it again.
Oh, we've cursed him to high heaven tonight. He was on.
Also, wait, sorry, Scott, but is it? Are we going to see joys for the end of this race?
We are indeed. Curly into the pits. That track is looking pretty dry, and those tyres are red stripe softs. 5-second penalty being served here, of course. But if he's the first one to run in, Mean Man Moody, of course, or Mean Moody is on the mediums. He is out of contention realistically. So yes, he served 5 seconds here. He might be able to claw some back. DS Baker has an opportunity as well to put on some soft tyres, some medium tyres, probably softs to be fair at this stage. Get that wing change and try and regain as much as he can. Of course, likely a penalty coming his way for reset the track. Now, SUFC, I expect to see him jump in the pits now. He's got 25 seconds.
If he wants to stay for an extra lap, just to make sure he can.
He can do. Yeah, he's got that gap. So we'll see, does he choose this lap or does he go for the next lap? He is going to choose this lap. Worrying about maybe a 25-second undercut, I would be too. Topher is likely going to follow suit then. AFL will likely jump him, given the 5-second penalty. It'll be close between Victor Mean and, of course, IR Marshall has got his teammate to worry out in front with the 5-second. It might be tight. They might just, if the Ferrari boys are on point, be able to get one in and out before the other. Topher does fall into the pits. AFL going another lap here. Victor Mean doing the same. IR Marshall follows his teammate in. So the only the two Ferraris. Let's see, is there a double stack? Yes, and it's cost Topher about 5 seconds serving his pen, and it's cost Marshall about the same, having to wait. So maybe in that instance, better to stay out. Victor Mean chasing down AFL both on the intermediates. We'll get a good little sort of test when the pace. It looks so as if AFL is gaining ever so slightly here and there on some parts of the track, losing out to others in the soft. So probably not much between the two, although saying that, the gap is getting a lot bigger now at the front.
Yeah, Marshall's a little flag before, but yeah, I mean, I was going to say on DS Baker before what we cursed him was that if he had finished P6, I'm pretty sure he would have scored more points in this race than he would have all season. So a missed opportunity for him. We're still in P11, still going to get to 5 points. I said in a rookie season in a Tier 4 where it's probably the best it's ever been. It's not bad at all. But as I see how far here that is a Mercedes. I thought it was Victor Mean for a minute, but no, it was Mean Moody down in P15. But no DRS yet, so the FAA is still unconfident. But Victor Mean going for it. Then inside. Oh, there's contact. I think everything's okay though on the car. There's a safety car.
And it's a full safety. What is that for? Well, this throws a massive spanner in the works. It might have been Mean Moody.
He's crashed coming out of
the final corner. I couldn't see the dot on the track for the DRS detection zone. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, this really does spice things up. Victor Mean and AFL making a huge call then, staying out. That, of course, has gave them track position here. They're going to have the fresher softs. They're going to be right on the tail as FUFC. IR Marshall will be scoffing a little bit at his decision to follow Topher in. He could have been up there as well. Scooter Clem has got a free pit stop onto the softs. He's going to serve that 5-second time penalty. It might have been disaster for his fellow countryman, his fellow rookie. It could be absolute top trumps for him here tonight. I'm going to say no more and just see how the dominoes fall.
Yeah, let's just, let's not curse anyone here, Scott, okay? It's happened about 5 million times already this race. Let's just relax a little bit.
We'll see how it happens. SUFC, of course, if he wanted to, could jump into the pits for a fresh set of softs and just get the maximum out. It looks like Ghost Angel 1 is, I mean, interesting. He's stuck out on the intermediates. He is a lap down. I suppose, yeah, it does make sense. That's going to be big for SUFC. I suppose he's going to act as a little bit of a blocker. And it looks like...
What do you mean, what are mediums?
Ooh,
you might as well just go on softs. I mean, it'll be 2 laps left till the guy comes in. I mean, those softs are not us, but maybe maybe it's on the basis that obviously SFC's tires already won it. Maybe they'll die, but I'm quite surprised with that strategy. But who knows?
Could just be a simple, humble misclick. It's not as if they're short of tires. Well, maybe it is. Maybe he used all his tires in qualifying.
That is also very true. He could have went softer option, and then you know what, Scott? You're right. You have even more open mind than I do. So
he maybe went with the balanced, used 3 sets, or maybe even the harder, and used 2 sets of soft tires in qualifying. So versus a warm, maybe done an out lap, a flying lap, an in lap, or maybe even an out lap, a flying lap, a cool down lap for an aborted lap, and an in lap. The mediums are the better choice. That is definitely a possibility here. SUFC is now just catching up to the rear of the safety car. Of course, we need to have 2 racing laps to finish this Grand Prix. It is going to be a 2-lap sprint in Zandvoort, and I think for the most part, most of the top 10 will catch up. I think it might just be the likes of Ghost Angel 1 that might struggle. The big gap, of course, Scooter Claim to Topher, but only 10 seconds, and under safety car they're going to be going a lot faster, especially now that the leaders caught up with it, and especially once they get onto the same lap. Once they cross this line, the delta should hopefully disappear and allow them to catch up at a bit more of a consistent rate. We'll wait and see with that. Big battle though for P13. Ghost Angel 1 and Spider Rob. Now you might be saying, no, they're a lap down, that's for nothing. I'll hold my hands up, if there is a retirement, that could end up being a points paying position. So this is the importance of sort of staying in the Grand Prix and trying to piece things out and see how things go, because you never know what can happen. So that could be important down the line. But the main battle is going to be between SUFC, Victor Mean, AFL, Topher, Scooter Clem, IR Marshall, Wubana, BX37 Pro, DS Baker, Curly, Mark Wilson, and Tomo Tip Top. All 12 of these drivers, all on the lead lap, all on for at least a point as things stand. But who's going to finish where? Who's going to dare to push the boundaries? Who's going to dare to try and make the overtakes? And who's going to empty that battery, but you've got no need to keep it 2-lap shootout, Lee. You might as well blast it.
I mean, it's also a question of who's going to catch up. Obviously, Kem and, those guys, but will the likes of BX Pro, Baker, those guys might be very late to catch up, but yeah, I mean, might as well. 2 laps to go doesn't, in order to keep it safety cars in this lap, so we will get a sprint to the end. Scott, I will let you take over.
Absolutely, 2-lap sprint. I think everybody, Tomo Tip Top might be on the cusp. I think the Red Bulls can just get their toes down and can make it by the time, SUFC safety car is coming in. He is now the de facto race leader. He is the pace setter, and it's up to him when we go green flag racing. So the Red Bulls are just now in the back of the train. So we do have an 11-car train on this restart for the 2-lap sprint. And it is going to be down to SUFC to decide when we go racing. He's thinking about it. Got the little glitch there, trying to go a little bit too early. The throttle's going all over the place. And now it is time to go. Victor Mean then on the mediums. He's going to be a little bit of a pace disadvantage compared to some. And then we've got, of course, Ghost Angel 1. He is a lap down. It's interesting to see Spider Robin getting out of the way. Battles in the midfield. And PX37 Pro round. Not enough for a retirement, so he can still nurse this car home for a point further back. Then Wiban as IR Marshall loses grip on the exit of turn number 3, ends up into the left-hand side wall, and they are falling like flies at the end of this Grand Prix. The battle for the finishing positions, though, heating up at the front. SUFC leads Victor Mean, leads AFL. 4-lap old softs versus 2-lap old mediums versus 2-lap old softs. A real variety of not just compounds, of life, of energies, and of just different forms of grip. It'll be, of course, the softs a lot easier to heat up. They could overheat perhaps as well because there may be some setups here more tuned towards the wet race. And of course, those that maybe forgot that it was a wet race or misinterpreted the weather data could see a real spark in the race at this moment. DS Baker loses out to Mark Wilson and loses out again to Curly Roon, the final 2 corners. His teammate Wuban will be next up for them. Victor Mean, like you say, yeah, fastest lap on those mediums. And it is a 1-lap shootout now to decide who is going to finish where in this Grand Prix. AFL dropped off a little bit. It's looking, as things stand, as it could be a 2-lap, a 2-player sprint here to then Spider Rob. Well, that's a Scottish name, Spider Rab. He has retired in the pit on the final lap, and well, DNF 14th of though, completing 90% of the Grand Prix has seen him. He will be classified as a finisher.
All BX Pros round again.
BX37 Pro round drops down to P12. He could potentially battle out with Marshall if he can get his toe down enough, but it might be a bit of a stretch. Victor Mean is going to need one hell of a stretch into these final couple of turns if he's going to try and stake a claim at a race victory here. However, it looks to be just beyond him. SUFC, the man who had a solid qualifying. He perfected the strategy. He ran amok on the wet and inter conditions. Picks up the race win in Zandvoort. Victor Mean, a solid race for the Mercedes. Last week's winner, P2. AFL back on the podium once again, ahead of Topher. P5 for Scooter Clem. Rookie season, P5, solid drive. Wuban, P6. Curly, P7. DS Baker, P8. A race of what could have been Tomo Tip Top and Mark Wilson, 9 and 10, caught up in an instant together. Mark Wilson having about 3 of them with various drivers, some more his fault, some more not his fault. It's part of the racing, of course. Marshall comes home in P11 again. A recovery drive at one point ended up into another little bit of a disaster towards the end. BX37 Pro in P12 and the last of our race finishers. His teammate Ghost Angel 1 coming home in P13. Very solid drive all round, and what a race it was. Driver of the day there going to DS Baker. I don't think there's anybody else other than SUFC that it can go to. For me personally.
Yes. I mean, honestly, I have to have a rethink and see who drove him, but from what I can just think of, I think SUFC is. I'm trying to invite these guys to the party, but PlayStation is being weird and not loading, so thanks. Actually, Victor Mean coming from P9 to P2 has to have a show in as well.
Yeah, it was a good drive from him in the Mercedes. Just a little confirmation from him saying that he had picked the harder tyre strat as well, so that's why he was opting for the mediums. Topher P14 to P4 as well, but SUFC picks up the win as that helicopter nearly takes our face off. SUFC P2 to P1 picks up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix ahead of Victor Mean. P3 AFL taking another podium this season for the McLaren. Topher in P4 ahead of Scooter Clem, Wuban, Curly, DS Baker, Tom Tip Top, Mark Wilson, I Marshall, BX37 Pro and Ghost Angel 1, the last of the finishers. Some big shout outs there to some tremendous drives. Scooter Clem up to P5, Topher up to P4, Victor Mean P9 to P2, but for me, SUFC is clear for my vote, driver of the day. Of course, all the drivers, commentators and admin team will get a vote on that, and you can always check us out on Twitter, Cone Racing League, to vote for the driver of the week. Of course, the 4 drivers of the day from the 4 tiers battling out for that coveted poll. It's worth nothing in the points tally, but it's worth pride, and I think that's worth enough, Lee.
I think so too, but for some reason my PlayStation deciding doesn't want to load, or it doesn't want to load my friends list so I can invite these people, so
I'll bear with me a second then, folk. I'll see if we can quickly get them in. It might be I had a little PS issue earlier on trying to get the stream up and running, essentially, to get a connection to the between like PSN and the YouTube service. It was a little bit buggy. So we'll see. It is of course SUFC. I'm trying to think. What's the numbers at the end? Is it
I think it's 69.
Of course it is. Just trying
Yeah,
to
you're
find
afraid.
him. There we go. SUFC Victor Mean and AFL. Well, CFL. Add them and see if any of them want to come for a little chat.
Yes.
If we can get AFL added.
Gee.
We'll wait and see. Bear with us, folks. You'll be having a lovely blue screen at the moment while this all decides to sort itself out. I can't actually find AFL for the life of me here. I'll add these two now and see if I can do it a little bit of a different way. PSN seeming to bug out a little bit.
Told
See,
you. Even on PS5, it's having a canary.
it's yeah, it just seems to be maybe a little bit of issues at PSN home. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm thinking that hard to try and get it sorted, but I can't even think anymore. Our P2 though has joined the party. Victor Mean, brilliant to see you for a little chat, mate, and you must be pretty happy with that result tonight.
My heart's still beating, man. It was the end of that was pretty intense. I'll be surprised if I stay this high though after the kind of touch with Mark. I can really only apologise for that. It's pretty out of nowhere, but you know when the tires get like that, they're kind of really tough to control. But it was a fun one.
Definitely, yeah. It looked as if you just lost a little bit of the traction with the car, and it decided that it wanted to go one way. You wanted to go another. Unfortunate little bit of contact, but I suppose these things happen every now and again. Aside from that, I believe you did mention that you were on the harder compound for the tyre selection. I'm assuming that's why you went on the mediums right at the end.
Yeah, I only had two softs in quali, and it kind of screwed me over in quali as well because I had to abandon this. It was all said and done, but it's all right. It kind of worked out nicely. I don't think I was ever going to catch SUFC. He's very fast, so P2 is the best result I've ever had in CRL, so I'll take it. You know, not going to complain.
Definitely, I believe it was P3 last week, P2 this week, P1 next week.
After penalties, so P2 before penalties, and then I'll take a P1 with penalties. You know what I mean? I don't mind.
We'll wait and see with that, of course. Next week, I can't even remember off the top of my head what the track is now on that. Oh, Baku. If it is, that is. I mean, I might get some flack for this one. That is a favourite of mine, it must be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I love Baku. Yep.
Baku. It must be a Scottish thing. We just have an affinity for the streets of Baku. It'll be an interesting race at that. And I suppose the only other thing I can ask you about that is, I take it there was a little bit of confusion with the radar and the weather tonight. It was the glitch where it tells you one thing and it does another.
Exactly that. I think half the grid thought it was dry. We were talking in the chat right before it, asking what was it going to be, and I think everyone assumed it was the glitch. So everyone, I think, had dry setups on. But it made for a fun race, at least from the front, you know.
Definitely couldn't agree more. Lee, anything else to add for our P2 tonight, Victor Mean?
No, once again, you've stolen all the questions from me.
Thanks for the comms, guys. Great job.
Our pleasure, mate. Thank you very much, and congratulations for what is provisional P2 tonight. Lee, then, I'll let you take over as Mr. Armani AFL joins us P3 sitter tonight.
Yeah, AFL, I actually can't remember much from your race. It seemed pretty quiet from you, but just give us a run through.
Literally, you've summed it up. Just quiet, just trying to keep out of trouble, trying to leave as much space as I could, because obviously it's wet and anything could happen. And I was just thinking about the long run, really, just seeing what would happen at the end. And I got a P3 in the end. Probably don't deserve it, but I'll take it because I kept it clean throughout the race.
Yeah, exactly. Staying in trouble is the main thing. I'm guessing MU were confused with the weather as well as everyone else was.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, it was dry, And then I got into the start of the race and it was wet, and I was just like, oh, here we go. And I gather everybody was running dry setups.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to keep it on the road, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I did it, so I'm happy with the P3. And then on to next week.
Yeah, speaking of next week, back here next week, are you confident for next week? Do you like the track?
I don't mind it. I'm certainly better at it than I was before, so I have to put in a bit of practice sometime this week. But yeah, looking forward to that as well. That's going to be another tricky circuit with regards to setup. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, congrats on your P3, Scott. Any questions?
Cheers, mate.
I suppose my only quick one is, of course, AFL. You've had your history here in Tier 4 in championship battles. Of course, with the man, the myth, the peasant that was Hedgehog. Big shout out to him, legend in the community. You're up there this year. Another solid points haul tonight. Is that your aim going forward now? Now you've had a decent start to try and push for that title, or are you just taking every week as you come? I know you're quite a chill, relaxed guy, but I know you've got that drive and that pace to push.
I'm not thinking too far ahead. I just take it as it comes each week. But yeah, obviously towards the end, I'd like to be in with a shout of the title and then see what I can do. But at this current time, I'm just looking to pick up as many points as I can and see what happens.
Take it week by week and take it as it comes. Can't really. I wish I could do that. That's probably my problem. Thank you very much for joining us, AFL. Congratulations on your P3 tonight, and again, thank you for joining us, Victor Mean.
Cheers for the fun, guys, as well.
Brilliant, mate. No, absolute pleasure once again. A mental race to comms over, and a pleasure to do it alongside yourself, Lee. Thank you for joining me once again on my return after a week of absence. We both had one missed week each. Hopefully it's the last, and we can keep this pairing going for the remainder of the rounds, mate.
Hopefully, yeah. Obviously another. I think me and you were just a recipe for quality races. I think. I'm not sure I have fan votes, but every race me and you have been together seems to be a good one. Apart from Monaco, obviously, but no.
Monaco has its own quirks. I would hate to think how many doctors' offices this is getting played into as like a sort of epitome of what mental derangement looks like in the good kind, because you know, me and you could bang us together, there's not a bit of brain between us, but I think that's what makes half the action. Thank you for joining me again though, Lee. Pleasure, and we'll be back of course next week in Baku, same time, same place, 8:15 PM GMT. Still, it'll be turning to BST very, very soon, but I'll try and keep you updated for that for our lovely European counterparts. Of course, Tier 3 was on earlier tonight. Make sure to have a little look back at that race with the legends, that is Jamie and Boompie, combining these two names, aka the Little Tree. And then Tier 2 kicks off first day 7:30 PM. Jonathan in the comms box, maybe me. I might be making a little first day comms debut maybe sometime in the future. We'll wait and see on that one. And of course Tier 1, where you can see Leroy racing around the banks and sand dunes of the Netherlands at 8:30 on the first day. You can tell how his season's going by that sentence alone. So all that's left for me to say is thank you all for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and we'll see you back again this time next week.